From New York City to Washington, D.C., from San Francisco to Dallas, Texas, business executive, author, speaker Chuck Gallagher, ethics and choices expert, brings you a CFP iShares ethics interview.
Hi, I'm Pete Bolden from iShares. Welcome to our ethics course that specifically addresses the Code of Ethics and Professional Responsibility as adopted by the Certified Financial Planner Broader Standards. With me today I have Chuck Gallagher, who is going to really talk about some of the context that surrounds the 7 principles behind the code. And Chuck, why don't you start off with telling us your story, because I think it's an interesting one.
Well, sure, Pete. First, it's great to be here, and I love the accent. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, it was a very expensive accent too.
I understand.
Yeah.
Well,
years of training.
People ask the question about the story, and it's a bit different. On October 2nd, 1995, I took 23 steps, and those actually were steps from the curb to a door. And on that 24th step, I opened the door and stepped into federal prison.
Wow.
On that day, I became 11-642-058, an inmate in federal prison. On the 24th step, when I became 11-642-058, I became what most people, the folks perhaps even that see this, would define as a nobody. My life changed.
Yeah. I mean, you're exactly the right person to having this conversation, because there's 7 principles, and they seem to be sort of fairly obvious and things that you'd read through. But I think in hearing from you, that just gives such greater realism and authenticity to some of the real issues that lie behind these, that it's absolutely right to discuss, especially at this is a really difficult time for financial professionals, as well as the problems we have in the economy. There's huge questions over the type of products that are being used, the integrity of those products, and so on. So it's a really great time to discuss some of these issues, because I'm sure that we are all being challenged with this as we move forward.
Well, it is a challenging time, and I have to say the thing that strikes me is particularly interesting is that iShares has made the commitment not only to espouse ethical behavior amongst the folks that are associated with your company, but to take that further, to take the concept of how you can be a solution provider to the people who are CFPs.
So the first principle, as you know, is integrity. And that's really the key principle from which most of the other principles sort of flow from. And obviously integrity is a huge word. It's about trust, it's about conduct, it's about doing the right thing, operating in that environment.
Integrity is easy. When the market is up, when you can do no wrong, when everything is just going perfectly, yeah. It's almost easy to say, well, I'm operating with integrity. But then when there are challenges, the challenges really define, do I understand what integrity truly means? When the choice is making a financial choice, making an investment recommendation, when those choices demand that I'm going to receive a certain amount of reward, a certain amount of commission, whatever the pay structure is, and feed my family, or I am going to do the honest thing, I am going to tell the truth, and I'm going to lead that person in a different direction that may not be to my direct benefit today. That's when the question of integrity really arises. I did spend time in federal prison. I'm not proud of that, but I have to say I found one of the most, let's put it this way, the person that I had as a cellmate had more integrity than most of the people that I did business with when I was on the outside functioning as a CPA. Now, as bizarre as that is to hear, the reality was he always told the truth, he would never lead me astray, and he understood what integrity truly meant, because it wasn't about him and what was in his best interest. Integrity was looking at me and asking what was in my best interest.
The second principle is about objectivity. And that's about being required to provide professional services with objectivity, making the right choices and not being biased by personal instincts and that sort of thing. So again, you must have experienced a point at which objectivity started again to diminish as a principle for you.
It's interesting, Pete. My mother, who is now 72, is a financial advisor insurance and financial services. And it was fascinating to me because we've had some conversations, numerous conversations. She obviously is intimately familiar with my past, and that past prohibits me from ever being able to assist or help her with the things that she faces. But it's funny, I say funny, not in a laughing manner, but interesting, that her broker-dealer in many cases will have products that they will recommend. And the question then is, how objective is the advice that's given? Is the advice given because it is the broker-dealer's recommendation that this is the product du jour, that this is the one that pays the greatest commission, that this is the one that provides the greatest benefit, or this is the one that moves you to the trip to Hawaii or Great Britain or wherever the case may be? Is that the motivation to sell the product, or is the true objective met, which is evaluating the need of the client and making a recommendation based on the client's true need, irrespective of all of those other benefits that might come into play?
It's interesting you say that the number of high net worth investors who are choosing to have more than one advisor is increasing. So I think there's a view out there that advisors aren't particularly or cannot be particularly objective. And that leads to high net worth investors especially seeking the sort of information that they need and advice from 2, 3, 4 different advisors who often are overlapping in their capabilities and competencies. But I think again it shows that they potentially doubt advisors' objectiveness in many cases. So.
Well, and that does carry into something you just mentioned, which is really the third issue, which is competence.
Yeah.
Because the reality today is the people who are out there, those who are looking and are really truly seeking advice, want the most competent advisors that they can find. People that they believe have a knowledge base that is sufficient to meet their needs. And you know, and I know, not one advisor is going to be totally competent across a spectrum, which is one of the reasons why when you're looking at issues of integrity and competence and all of these that really intertwine, I want to find someone who is really good in a particular area. From my perspective, I'm changing it slightly. Typically, people are going to find a good tax advisor. Now, the tax advisor that might help them on an individual basis may be entirely different than the tax advisor that they will find to help them with their corporate business enterprise or nonprofit organization. So in many cases, people are looking for someone who has that competence and really understands the product.